Very good morning, friends. So I hope you're all safe and healthy. So I have been making some videos related to Index 101, and so far we have done a discussion with reference to what we've called as E and E. That is the mandatory exceptions which are covered under Appendix B of Index 101, and we've been talking in terms of the optional exemptions under Appendix C and D. We've covered in the previous videos the concept of Appendix B as well as Appendix C, where Appendix C is typically dealing with the optional exemptions as per Index 103. Now in this particular video, I'm going to start with some, not all, but of course certain major exemptions which are available from the other Index that is covered under the Appendix D of Index 101. So today in this particular video, we're going to talk of the share-based payments. That if under the previous gap, there are certain share-based payments, equity or cash settled, how are they going to be reflected in the opening Index balance sheet? Let's find this out in detail in this video. खुशखबरी और खुशखबरी और खुशखबरी भाई बम्पर ऑफर चल रही है और ये बम्पर ऑफर का आज लास्ट डे है। यानी कि अगर आप अपने सीए फाइनल ग्रुप 1 की या सीए फाइनल ग्रुप 2 की या दोनों ग्रुप्स की या इंटरमीडिएट की या फाउंडेशन की किसी की भी तैयारी कर रहे हैं, आज बम्पर ऑफर का लास्ट डे है। 6 मंथ्स की सब्सक्रिप्शन पर आपको मिलेगा 1 मंथ एक्स्ट्रा, 12 मंथ्स पर आपको मिलेंगे 2 मंथ्स एक्स्ट्रा। लेकिन याद रखिए, ये आपके पास ऑफर केवल और केवल आज लास्ट डे है जिसके अंदर आप ये ऑफर अवेल कर सकते हैं। सीए फाइनल ग्रुप 1 और ग्रुप 2 दोनों पर सेम ऑफर है, और अगर आप कॉम्बो ऑफर में दोनों ग्रुप्स लेते हैं तो 6 मंथ्स पर आपको 1 मंथ एक्स्ट्रा मिलेगा, 12 मंथ्स पर 2 मंथ्स और 24 मंथ्स पर 3 मंथ्स एक्स्ट्रा। इसके लिए आपने करना क्या है, डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स के अंदर आपको एक लिंक मिलेगा, उससे आप उस लिंक से सब्सक्राइब कर सकते हैं और फर्दर 10% डिस्काउंट भी ले सकते हैं, जिसके लिए आपको मेरा कोड इस्तेमाल करना है CAKB10 और आपको 10% डिस्काउंट एक्स्ट्रा मिलेगा। लेकिन याद रखिए, ये ऑफर केवल आज ओपन है। तो क्या सोच रहे हैं, आइए फटाफट से सब्सक्रिप्शन कीजिए एंड लेट्स क्रैक इट। वेल, यू कैन सी अ समरी चार्ट in terms of how the equity settled as well as the cash settled share-based payments are going to be accounted in the opening Index balance sheet. Now let's have a little look in terms of the equity settlement and then in terms of the cash settlements. Well, if you notice in the particular chart, in case of equity settlement transactions, you can see the point number 1 as well as the point number 2. Now we could say that in terms of equity settled transactions, we can have those equity instruments that have vested before the date of transition to Index. Or we may have situations where the instruments are not yet vested. That means the vesting period is either complete before the first time adoption of Index, or the vesting period is not yet complete. Now, in terms of those equity instruments which are vested before the first time adoption of Index, the standard says it encourages but is not required to apply Index 102. That means an entity has got an option. You've got a choice. You want to apply Index 102 or you don't want to apply Index 102. However, if you want to apply Index 102 with a retrospective effect, then there is a precondition as well. And that precondition is that the entity has disclosed publicly the fair value of those equity instruments which is determined at the measurement date. That means you can say that you've got two options. Either you choose not to apply Index 102 or you choose to apply Index 102 and measure them at a fair value. But measuring them at a fair value has got a precondition. You should ensure that these equity instruments, the fair value of these equity instruments has been publicly disclosed. Then comes the other aspect, that is those equity instruments which are not yet vested as on the first time adoption. In those particular cases, of course, we need to apply Index 102. That means the fair value of those equity instruments will be taken into account. This is as far as the equity settled is concerned. Let's have a look in terms of the cash settlements as well. Now we know that in terms of cash settlements, there would be liabilities, not equity instruments, but liabilities would arise on account of share-based transactions. Now in this particular case, again, the first time a doctor is encouraged but not required. So that means you've again got a choice that for those liabilities which are arising from the share-based payment transactions that was settled before the date of transition to Ind AS, you may or you may not apply the Ind AS 102. So that means in a nutshell, we can say one simple little thing what comes to the mind. If you look at the share-based payments, I would say if you're looking at equity settlement, have they already vested? You've got a choice. You want to take the fair value, you don't want to take the fair value. If you say that in this particular case, it is not yet vested, you need to apply the fair value. And in terms of cash settlements also, we can say for those particular payments which have already been settled before the date of transaction, here again you've got a choice. You may or you may not take them at a fair value. So this is in a nutshell the concept of share-based payments. That's all in this particular video. Thank you for watching. Wait for some more interesting videos coming on the Appendix D, and especially the next one, which is going to talk in terms of what we call deemed cost. Bye-bye and take care.